We're going. Oh, we're also going to be working on how to deal with the influx of the trans bills this summer, and we've drafted out advocacy campaign where we're going to focus on finding student testimonials, reaching out to specific representatives and trying to convince them to vote to not support the bills, and just seeing how we can better advocate for the needs of students given the influx of all the legislation that is going through the General Assembly right now that would be negatively impacting all students. And then with international relations, we are working on developing relationships with different international organizations, and we're almost done creating a guide about like to help international students better go through the process of like getting their visa approved. And so once that is fully fleshed out, then we'll be trying to see how we can share that with the student body. And so if anyone has any questions regarding my updates, then please let me know.
Thank you for that. It seems like we already have a question. Britt Large and Imola.
Yeah, this is definitely like a curiosity question. Do you guys like work with the international student services at all for the kind of guide you're putting together for the international students, or like how does that work?
So just a little bit of like background on the international relations side of things. This is like a very new sort of like level within state and external affairs. We kind of started it a bit last year. We didn't really do a whole lot with it, and then we realized there was such a huge need for it. So this is the first year that it's becoming an official like branch within SEA. And so we are right now focusing on developing those relationships with international organizations. But actually, if you don't mind putting down like if you know someone to contact from that organization, if you can just message me in the chat like right now, then that would be awesome. Or just like email me separately, whichever it works with you, because we are trying to work with like trying to see how we can best expand our connections within international relations and other international student organizations. But thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Chair Pascuala.
Hi, yeah, sorry, my camera is off. I was just wondering which specific House bills y'all were looking at and following, because I know Senator Desai has done a lot of work with House Bill 333, and I've been closely watching House Bill, I believe it's 324. So if y'all are looking at either of those, I assume Senator Desai and I know personally myself would love to help in any way we can.
Yeah, so we actually met with Senator Desai yesterday, and she brought up a lot of the resources that she mentioned. So just want to say like thank you again, Senator Desai, for talking about the resources and the work you've done with that bill. And I think with that specific bill, I think we are talking about potentially bringing in the Office of Federal Affairs, because they have a lot of relationships with state representatives. And so once we have a lot more codified like written student support on going against House Bill 333, then we'll see how we can take it to like the state level. And so that's when we try to bring in the connections that that office has. And so we did talk about that bill. But again, like Colin said, like huge props to Senator Desai and all the work that she's done and her team on like getting all those resources together. But we're also there's one of the other bills that we've been focusing on, and this is more specific to like the transgender sports bill, which is also called like the Save the Women's Sports Act, and that's House Bill 358. And so that is kind of getting a lot more traction slowly, and so we're trying to focus on that. And I think there's another one, I forgot the name of it, but it's somewhere in my notes of one of the bills that's specific to trans students. So if you have any other like resources or information that you want to share about that, then like feel free to send it over to me.
All right, yeah, will do. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Are there any more questions? All right, seeing none, we're going to move down to messages from the Student Attorney General.
Oh, thank you for okay. As you can tell, it's very late for me, but not too much to update you on our side. As you know, we continue to function over the summer, so we're still continuing to process cases. The only difference is that we do have a decrease in staff. Just regarding overall trends that we've seen so far during the summer semester, we've already seen a significant decrease in the amount of large-scale cases. So large-scale cases are defined as a case where there are 5 or more students involved for one course. We've seen a good decrease in that compared to last year. We're still in the process of scheduling a few hearings for the upcoming weeks. And that's about it on terms of case stuff that's going on. Regarding a few of the projects that we're doing, our mental health committee and student support projects are going on well. We're planning on looking at the whole honor system process as a whole and determining what changes need to be made in order to ensure that we're providing students the support that they need if they're going through the honor system process, and supporting our own members as they're working in the honor system. So we're going to be meeting with members from Student Health and Wellness, as well as the Office of Student Conduct, in order to just look over this process and see some things that we can change. We're working on recruitment. I know we're especially going to be working with the outreach committee, as well as the graduate attorney general and graduate chair. And I know that we're meeting with a small committee in exec and Senate in order to discuss recruitment and training and things like that. Yeah, so those are all the real updates that I have for you. I just want to say I'm looking forward to working with all of you. And I guess if you have any questions, just let me know.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Q? All right, seeing none, are there any messages from the Honor Court Chair?
Yeah, hello everyone. Good evening. I don't have too much to update you on either. The court will continue to run throughout the summer, as always. We're not really, the court itself is not too backed up on cases. Every case that's scheduled so far has been heard without any delays. We have a few scheduled and are just waiting for the Attorney General's staff to continue scheduling them for us to hear. And then just to echo what Q said, the court side will also be working alongside the Attorney General staff on the mental health initiative, both for students coming through the system and for our members. And also recruitment, that we'll start looking into that coming up soon for the following year. Also just for summer court, we have a full staff. Feel very confident that we can hear all the cases that are given to us. That's all that I have.
All right, I see a question from Senator Desai.
Yeah, thank you again for giving us the update. I just wanted to ask, would you mind sharing with us your recruitment plans once they're solidified more?
Yes, I'm happy to do that. I know, like you said, we're going to meet with some of with Q, and then also the speaker and Lamar and his staff to discuss how best to do recruitment and the appropriate approval processes necessary, because they have not been done correctly in the past. And I'm happy to update you on that once we have a solidified plan.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Okay, seeing none, there are no papers addressed to the Senate this time. So we're going to move on to reports of the officers of the Senate. Is there a report from Chair Fiore?
Yes, there is. Let me go ahead and drop another link that y'all got in Teams. This is for senators only, so everybody else can tune out if they want. But this is just kind of a form of required information. It was actually supposed to be, like everybody was supposed to get this into me before today, the second full meeting of Senate, but I didn't send it out to you. And unless you were meticulously reading the code, you wouldn't know that. So I'm just asking that everybody get this to me by the 31st at the latest, but as soon as you can fill it out would be great. And there's some actual reasoning behind the information here. So I'm just going to explain that, because I hate it when people demand information of me and then don't actually tell me why they need it. So this is all actually necessary, besides just being written in the code that I have to have it. So your name, so I can tell, what this is from, who this all applies to, your email. I need a way of contacting you. If you want to give me your phone number instead of your email, that's fine. But I figure you'd prefer email, so you don't have people like buzzing your phone 24/7. And then campus organizations you're active in now or have been in the past academic year. That's because we distribute student funds, and we like when finance committee is doing all of that, we don't want people to be biased. And when we're voting on things, you have to excuse yourself from like when voting on the budgets of the like student fees that are going to like student organizations that you're a part of, which makes sense. We want people to be unbiased. And that makes sense. And offices you held in those organizations, same concept. The plan for informing your constituency of the activities of the Undergraduate Senate is pretty self-explanatory. We just want to make sure that you're like actually talking to the people in your district and like making sure that you're actually a representative of the people you're representing, as opposed to just like kind of acting as an example, but not a representative sample, And then finally, just a screenshot of your Connect Carolina page or anything else you can use to prove your district that you're representing, which like literally can be anything. It's going through me, so I'm willing to accept a lot of sources for this. Anything like official or semi-official. I've told a few people who have asked now, like as long as it's like an email from an advisor or it says it on your Connect Carolina page. If there are any other special issues, just like send me a text or an email. My phone number is in my like email signature. I'll also drop it in the chat. That's probably the best way to reach me because I am in like high key summer mode. So the only reason I check my email is for my internship. So that's the best way to reach me now. But that's really all I need from you. And I would like that by the 31st, which gives you a bit of time, especially to create the plan for informing everybody of your activities and the activities of the Undergraduate Senate. So if you want to like put some time into that, you can. If not, if it's very simple and you already know what you're doing, just like write up a sentence or two so I know. And ethics committee in general knows. We probably won't meet to discuss that. It'll just be me looking at it because I don't want to drag all the random people for a meeting just for that. I also think we have to like call a certain number of people together unless I'm going to call it. So that's really it for me. Did I drop the link? Yeah, and I'll drop my phone number as well. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Chair Fiore? All right, seeing none, we're gonna move on to O&A. Oh, sorry, yeah, Senator Richards.
Chair Fiore, are my student organization affiliations going to be available to the public?
They are, I believe so. So you should keep that in mind. That's self-explanatory. People want to know like why you're voting the way you are, and that's part of the information that's necessary. Yes, O&A Chair Pasapula.
Yeah, this might be a stupid question, but like there are certain organizations that like technically I'm a part of on Heal Life, but I don't really consider myself part of those organizations. So should I be listing all the ones on my Heal Life or just the ones that I'm like actually actively a part of?
I would list everything that you've been to, everything that you've been a part of. Like that just like gets rid of any like impropriety things. Keep in mind though that like I'm not going to be like if it's on your Heal Life, I'll be able to see that. So I will probably just like add that to the list. Even if you don't include it, I'm not going to be like meticulously combing through everybody's like online materials, but that is something that I'll add. Especially if I don't like get your form by the 31st, I'll just be going off of that. But I would really appreciate it if I could get the forms. But yeah, just everything. And in the past year, if it's like something that's been on your Heal Life and you ended in over a year, which is like entirely reasonable given the pandemic, don't bother, it's fine.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, any further questions? Awesome, thanks guys.
All right, is there a report from Chair Pasapula?
Not much. We will be having our O&A meeting on June 2nd, so next week, and we'll be kind of be discussing our first steps for stipend review, kind of deciding which positions we want to review. So once those are finalized, I'll be sure to send an email to exec branch, but that is all for now. And we'll also be discussing kind of our like beginning stages of plans for how we want to increase advocacy between students and the Undergraduate Senate.
Great, are there any questions for Chair Pasapula? Vice President Smith.
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering if you could elaborate more on the stipend review process that'll be taking place and explaining like what the plans are for that. Because I know we recently did one, so I'm just curious what like the distinction between those two will be.
Yeah, so mostly just I'm under the, I don't know the specific word, how to explain this, but I'm under the impression that like that is something I should be doing, or that's something that the chair should be doing yearly. So kind of how that's gonna go is we're kind of, especially because exec branch is kind of restructured, we want to make sure that we're reviewing every single, cabinet position, just making sure that those people are being paid equitably for their work. So the main process is just we're going to kind of decide, I guess, next week or in the coming weeks, which positions we want to review. And then from there, we'll reach out to those specific positions and ask them to fill in timesheets for a specific number of months. So I'm thinking likely maybe like September, October, November, possibly. And then from there, we'll review those timesheets and interview each position, asking them about the work that they've done so that we can decide whether their stipend increases, decreases, or if we award them a stipend if they're not previously receiving one.
Thank you for that answer. I appreciate your proactive work in doing that too. I know it's a really strenuous process to get through and a thorough process, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Great. All right. Is there a report from Chair Robinson?
Just a very brief one. Two bills that are going to be coming up tonight passed RNJ this past week. One is regarding the dual prohibition clause. The other is a finance bill. So thank you so much to Senator Richards and Chairman Everett, respectively, for your work knocking those bills out. And thanks to the RNJ members who helped to vet them. I think we're going to be later this month, or maybe just in the next month, hearing from the remainder of the code revision working group, that group's recommendations. And RNJ will be hearing those recommendations and then working through them to recommend them to the Senate. That should be a very fun meeting. So when that one takes place, I will ensure that everyone in this room receives an invitation to come and speak their mind. Other than that, I can't think of much else. Just I hope everyone's enjoying their summer and look forward to continuing to work with all of you. So thanks.
Great. Are there any questions for Chair Robinson? All right. Is there a message from Chair Everett?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of things either. As Chair Robinson just said, the finance bill did pass a finance last week, I believe. Also, thank you, Speaker Powell, and for all your work that you did with that as well. We are beginning conversations about the treasurer test that we're working with on campus, working with that, and then we're creating like a Title IV cheat sheet to kind of also send out to clubs on campus so there's that information for finance nights. I think that's pretty much it as well. I just want to wish everyone a good summer. I know the semester was pretty tough, but we're done. So,
are there any questions for Chair Everett? All right. Is there a report from Speaker Pro Tempore Logan? Okay, I am going to read that off for her. Hi, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. I've been working with new senators regarding committee action items, STEM policy, and the return to in-person learning. Thank you, everyone, for your well wishes during my time of recovery. So, keep sending her well wishes, and hopefully she will come back better than ever to us. If you have any questions during this time while she's healing, please do reach out to me instead. I'm not sure when she will be back, but I'm sure she'll inform you guys of that when that happens. Okay, we will move on to the speaker's report. So hey all, a variety of things have popped up on my radar. I've got a kind of a list here. So first, I've gotten to do a lot of work with the bill that Chair Everett mentioned about the finance code. So I hope that is in good shape for you guys to talk about tonight. Pretty happy with how that turned out. Also, I've met with leadership. Committees are going really well. I'm really proud of all of that our chairs are doing, and I've gotten a chance to work with several different senators on small projects here and there that has been going really, really well. I'm pretty impressed by the initiative that everyone has shown. I just thank you guys for that, for making this such a good session. I want to give a shout out to Robbie. He has been doing some excellent work on the website, and he has also finalized a staff application, which we will be getting a graphic and pubbing soon. So do keep an eye on that, and I will let you guys know when to pub that. Anna's done great work. She got out that onboarding form to you guys today, so just do fill that out. Otherwise, I've had a meeting with the AGQ a few weeks ago. We talked about some various things. I think we're getting a meeting on the books with different branch leaderships to discuss. You guys have already heard about that. And I think that is all I have to report on. I will answer any questions if you have them. Please just raise your hand. All right. Next, we will move on to public comment period. Is there anyone here for public comment period? Raise your hand and I will call on you. All right, I do not think anyone is here for public comment period. There's nothing on the consent calendar, so we will move right into the general orders calendar, beginning with USB 103006, a bill to limit the dual role prohibition to reflect current student government practices. I will share my screen. Senator Richards, if you want to go ahead and start presenting this.
Yeah, sure. So this is the first bill to come out of the working group, the Code Revision Working Group. So I'm speaking generally as the chair of the Code Revision Working Group and not in my personal capacity as a senator. Generally, things that I say will be things that I feel are the impression of the working group or the opinion of the working group. I would first like to thank Dylan Hennigan and Senator Desai for their diligent work on this in the subgroup, and all the members of the working group who were able to help get this cleaned up. So just to go through from top to bottom, the major change here is the shift from barring members of student government who are on what I'm calling the list or listed from holding any other position to any person who is in a listed position may no longer hold any other listed position. So in the past, just for an example, if you were an undergraduate senator, or if you were the outreach coordinator for the honor court, you were statutorily barred from holding any other position in student government, regardless if it was on the list. This was not super followed. I can only speak for the last few years of student government, but I know that I've spoken to people who were senators, years ago when this, when this still existed, but farther in the past. But this has not ever been particularly well followed, and there's not a clear enforcement mechanism, and it seems like a weird thing. So the major change is you can now hold any other position in student government as long as it's not listed, if you are one of these listed officers. Second major change is we've removed undergraduate senators from as listed officers, and we have replaced them with elected officers as defined by 2 USGC 106. If you're curious what that is, elected officers of the undergraduate senate are the speaker pro tempore, and all chairs of committees. Further, I moved undergraduate members of the Board of Elections out into their own subsection so that you couldn't then be on the Board of Elections and be in student government. So their position essentially is unchanged by this bill. Further, in the past, there was nobody who was strictly statutorily existed to enforce this, or not really enforce, but inform people of this this restriction. And so we're giving this bill gives that to the ethics chair. In the past, if you in theory came across somebody who was in one of the honor court listed positions, let's say outreach coordinator again, and they accepted a position in exec branch, maybe on some committee or something. In theory, what was supposed to happen is that person was considered automatically resigned from the position of outreach coordinator. And this is a good mechanism for making sure that there's no it's just not possible to violate this rule, if you follow the rule strictly. However, that means that there was nobody around who was who was in charge of telling you, hey, you can't do that, unless somebody noticed and took you to student Supreme Court, which is, to be clear, in this construction still an option. If you if you notice somebody does this and the ethics chair talks to them, is hey, you're resigned from this position, and the branch refuses to go along with you, you can take this to student Supreme Court still. I don't know how fast they would resolve that case, but that's sort of a separate problem. Further, the original recommendation from the subgroup was to strike completely subsection D, and the full working group revised that and changed it to study abroad for a full semester, which is to exclude summer study abroad programs, and I guess potentially study abroad programs that occur during the school year, but like for less than a semester. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but and then also excluding when Senate is meeting on that. And then further, we have struck subsection E. It's our impression that some external appointments are more work than others. Some external appointments, it's probably unreasonable for you to have more than one. Some external appointments, it's probably okay for you to have 3 or 4. And we think that the existing confirmation process for external appointments is sufficient to sort of police this and ensure that people are not overloaded. And that this apparently had been a problem in the recent past where it was just very difficult to fill all of the external appointments. All right, I will now yield to questions. Participants list.
Please raise your hand if there are any questions for Senator Richards. If there are none, I will hear a motion for discussion.
Motion to enter discussion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we are now in discussion. Please raise your hand and I will call on you. I did not see the order those came in, so I'm going to go start with Senator Desai.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo some of the comments that Senator Richards and Dylan Hennigan and I had when we were working on this. And we just wanted to really allow more of, how do I say this without misspeaking, but we really wanted to, we saw a lot of concern with the area of undergraduate senators being in dual prohibition clause, and this bill is just the reflection of the change that the working group wanted to see happen, and Senator Richards articulated that perfectly, so just an endorsement to his words.
Chair Robinson.
Yeah, just to echo the previous points, I think there's so much to be said for ensuring that the branches remain independent. And I totally believe that this is a step in the right direction, and I endorse it as well.
I can't raise my hand, but I do have a couple of words on this. I'm kind of bringing up something that we've already talked about. Senator Richards, you mentioned that you kind of weren't married to the clause, but I do have some reservations about designating the undergraduate Senate ethics chair as the person who oversees this completely. I gave this some more thought. I don't know if anyone feels the same way I do, but maybe changing this to something that reads more like the Senate ethics chair is charging with informing branch leaders. I do have some just like reservations about putting that on the undergraduate Senate ethics chair, and more so not like making the branch that is, you know, making them more responsible, like the branch leaders, for kind of enforcing this. However, I mean, I could be swayed differently. I do also just somewhat hold some reservations again about allowing senators to participate in different external appointments. It does make me feel a little bit uncomfortable, just because I feel as though we oversee those. But you know, I understand if someone feels differently. All right, I'm done. I'm pretty sure Colin, you were next.
I'd like to respond briefly.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Senator Richards.
Yeah, I just like to just relate further what people thought in the working group. So the general thinking around why the ethics chair was selected was because in general, in the past, the overwhelming majority of at least observed violations of this rule occurred in Senate. And ideally this would avoid, you know, the changes of the bill would avoid that. But further, this is not like an enforcement clause, right? So this is not actually granting the ethics chair any power to do anything. It simply allows the ethics chair to it charges the ethics chair essentially with informing people that they have been resigned from their position. and that they are like, if they continue to act in that position, then they are acting, like against the undergraduate code. If that clarifies for people.
All right, Colin.
Actually, as I hate to cut VP Smith off, but as ethics chair, I have been named a whole bunch. Could I briefly respond?
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. So I was just thinking that this is very similar to the role that I have right now that was actually just mentioned in the onboarding document, which is like informing people of when there's conflict of interest, when they're involved in two separate organizations, and making sure that they don't vote in matters pertaining to the allotment of funds to the groups that they're a part of. This seems very similar to that, and it really seems in alignment with the rest of the job of the ethics chair. So that is just something to keep in mind as well. This is just kind of a natural extension of the same things, and it's unclear that actually anything would be done, or that this would actually be enforced if there isn't a designated person or a designated group of people that are assigned to this. I would be totally willing to expand this to the ethics committee at large if there was some concern about one particular person being involved in this, but I do think that there should be a named group. And I think that the ethics chair or the ethics committee, excuse me, is the right group for that, because it so closely aligns with all of the different roles that both the ethics chair and the committee already do.
All right, Colin, I think it is finally time for you to go.
All right, thank you all. I just want to start first thanking you all for doing this work on this bill, and I know that there's been a lot of work put in behind the scenes, but I do want to say, however, that I do share some of the concerns that Elena expressed, especially coming from the exec side. I think it's good that there's some point person that's dealing with breaking the dual prohibition clause and how enforcement and accountability looks like for that. I think I'm a big person on making sure that there's structured accountability. However, I do a little bit of concern of overreach into branches, because I think there's potential for a situation, if you like, there's undermining of the capability of, like, say, the executive branch to realize that we're not following a certain rule. I think that that's something that I do want to put out there, is implicating it in that sense. There's that concern, is if we had someone who were breaking the dual prohibition clause, I would hope that we could be trusted to deal with that on our own. I just want to name that. I think it's important that there's a point person, but what maybe the solution here is not the ethics chair being the person that's charged in removing, but informing a counterpart in another branch that needs to happen, so that it can happen internally. And there's still that point person being the ethics chair, the ethics committee, who's charged with that, but making sure that they're not outreaching to someone in executive branch and saying, for example, like, someone in executive branch has resigned from that. That's my first thought. I do have two other quick thoughts. The second thought, as the individual deals with external appointments, I do have some concern about getting rid of that prohibition with the two external appointments. So I think that there is an important conversation to be had around filling spaces, but I think there's also an important conversation to be had around how allowing individuals to hold so many external appointments, essentially removing a limit. I think it starts to threaten conversations of equity. So, for example, there would be nothing beyond, like, the vice president's judgment of an individual sitting on, like, SAC, so Student Advisory of the Chancellor Committee, and SAB and DSAC, and some of the external appointments that do take more work. Removing this would, I think, reduce the amount of individuals that are participating, which is the antithesis of what executive branch is trying to do in general. And I want to make sure that while we can recognize that there are some issues with filling spots, there's also, I think, room and longitude within the vice president's office that regardless, the rule would still be followed too, even if it's not a rule. Because I will be frank, I think if there is no limit as I approach this external appointment cycle, I still would follow something close to 2 to make sure that we have as many individuals participating in student government as possible. And it's not just, for example, like a Moorhead taking up 6 spaces, or like Robertsons that are getting involved because they feel like these are spaces that are open to them. We want to make sure that these are spaces that are open to all individuals. So that's my concern with that, and I'd love to hear some thoughts on that. And then my last thought, and I want to hear thoughts on this, because I think there's some implications of changing how the dual prohibition clause is structured, changing it to an individual not being able to hold more than one position on this list. I think it creates some gray area that could be an issue. I don't know if I'm interpreting this wrong, but the way that I'm understanding this is, say, for example, now that we're removing a senator at baseline from this, there's nothing stopping, say, our treasurer from also being a senator, as long as they're not an elected officer. I don't know if that's a misinterpretation of this, but I think that's an implication that we need to understand what that means. because I think that poses an issue more than it would pose of being able to hold an external appointment. So I'm curious what if I'm interpreting that wrong, or if that's an implication possible. Unlikely, because I would trust the executive branch to know that they shouldn't let one of their executive board members be a senator or something like that. But I do want to hear some thoughts on that as a concern.
Senator Richards, do you have a direct answer to that right now? Or?
Yeah, I can say that that is correct. That is true, that is the way that the code would work if we made these changes. I mean, anybody could be an undergraduate senator. The student body president could be an undergraduate senator if they wanted. I think that would be a pretty unhinged thing for you to do, to be completely honest. I'm not like, I don't know, if you guys want to add something to this bill that like bans people from being undergraduate senators if they're like on the list or something, I'm not like, I don't have an objection to that or anything. But the way that it works right now is that, yeah, it's true that you could be a undergraduate senator if you were on any of these, in any of these positions, but you could not be an officer of the Senate. And there's some like weird possible outcomes of that I think are pretty edge case and unlikely. And I think that in general, people are like guided by norms pretty reasonably. But like if there's concerns about that, then like certainly somebody can put forward an amendment and we can vote on it. But the feeling of the working group was that the combination of existing norms and just the like workload of being both on exec and like an active senator was probably pretty prohibitive for individuals.
Member at large, Nimala.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I had a comment about the first thing that VP Smith said, but like going off with this last point that we've been discussing, I think the time commitment is going to be our biggest prohibition from allowing like a senator, like an active senator, from holding like an exec position. And I mean, I'm not sure that the application, like when you're applying through Heal Life to be a senator or exec position, if it lists the hour or the expected time you expect like work in a week, adding those kinds of things like, oh, you require like I don't know, 150 hours of work over the year or whatever, like that kind of time, like quantifiable limit, would definitely help keep people from like holding like both the Senate position and an exec position. And having that as a clause to like applying, that can be more beneficial than putting that here. What I did want to say in addition was that like I think it's okay for the ethics chair or the ethics committee as a whole to be the person who is notifying in case of a breach of, I don't know, like a conflict of interest or something, if they're holding two positions. And that's like what my reasoning is, who like to put that in the hands of just exec or just legislator or whatever the person is, like that's also giving a priority to like which position they're holding. Like how are we, like if they're holding two positions, it's likely in two different places. So who gets to decide where they're dealt with properly? As in, should exec decide because they hold an exec position and that's where it is? I mean, I think it's okay for the ethics chair to do it. And if you have any like clarification questions about what I just said, please feel free to ask, because that was a little winded.
Yeah, if I could respond to that quickly, I do have a thought. I mean, there are some concrete examples of how I think it has worked this year. So like Part C of this bill under A, Part C, where it lists what happens is you are deemed resigned from the first position that you held, is ideally what would go on. However, I think that especially within the executive branch, I'll speak, we have mechanisms to deal with staffing issues. And I think that while it's important, like I said, once again, that there's a point person that has this like regulatory power being the ethics chair, I think it starts to be a concern of undermining the trust of especially our chief of staff who deals with staffing in the executive branch to be able to do their job and recognize when an individual is breaking the dual prohibition clause. I want to make sure that we don't verge into areas where we're respecting the jobs of individuals that are supposed to be dealing with that initially. So the ethics chair deals with of course, ethics issues of individual senators, and we have a chief of staff who their job is to deal with specifically individuals within the cabinet or however it's structured at that point. And I mean, we have had to do that, and I think our chief of staff has handled that well and didn't necessarily need someone to come in to do that for them. And I just want to make sure that we're respecting everybody's authority in all these senses, and that's really important for me, is there's that balance.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, if it's directly a response, yeah.
Yes. I completely respect that. And I think that's important. Something that I was thinking of is like the chief of staff would likely not appoint this person if they already held a Senate position. And that's a check in place. But let's say they apply to like Senate after they're in exec position. Currently, the application process doesn't have that kind of check that will prevent them from doing that. So I think since that's the more likely outcome, it is okay to give the ethics chair or like the ethics committee as a whole that power to just like notify them and say, hey, you're in breach of this. And I think that's actually a fact that's respectful of the chief of staff's power, because they're they're preventing the other situation from happening.
All right, Senator Syed.
Yeah, I wanted to say in regards to the to your ethics chair, like watching over this stuff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe all these positions except for the president have to come before the Senate anyways, right? So therefore, like the ethics chair would be more knowing of the fact that every one of these positions could have a second appointment. Basically, I was just saying like that would be some logic as to why the ethics chair might be the point person for this, because they're in this position, they'd be more aware of somebody holding two things rather than, you know, someone who isn't constantly looking over that. If that makes any sense.
Again, I can't raise my hand, so I am gonna just kind of butt in here. I hadn't noticed the point that Colin made earlier about undergraduate senators, like ideally could be treasurer. And while I don't believe that's possible, I mean, I have good faith in all students, but I do worry about that not being codified just on the basis that it's likely to be unlikely. Just like from my experience in the past couple of years, I've seen some pretty unlikely situations happen. And while I would like to hope that someone would take their commitment as an undergraduate senator very, very seriously, like I've seen all of you do, I think it's also possible for someone to try to take on both of these responsibilities because it's not prohibited by the code, and potentially skirt one of them pretty hard and try to play both roles. I would say I would find it necessary to somehow word that and put that back in here just to prevent that from happening. I know we may feel like it's unlikely, but I feel like it is a very important thing to include. If Senator Richards, would you be open to adding that back in?
I'm in general not going to entertain friendly amendments on this, just because this is not actually my bill, but it's the working group's bill, and like obviously the working group cannot vote. But if you want to put forward an amendment, like, you know, you can just vote on it. It's fine.
Okay. So I mean, would the best way to go about this for me to propose an amendment just to add back undergraduate senators and to change it from elected officers, or would it be an entire another point?
Hey, let me look at the
I can share it
real fast. I think that's true, but yeah, if you just changed back officers to senators, then yeah, senators would still be able to be like on exec departments or committees, whatever they're called now, but they would not be able to be like you couldn't be
like treasurer,
a senator if you're on Evo, for example.
Yeah, I will put forward that amendment to change that back, so we can move into a voting procedure on that.
You do have to get a second.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay. All right. So just to clarify, I think, I'm pretty sure we have to go forward with voting without Senator Desai's comment.
No, I just wanted to make sure if you could clarify the amendment.
Yeah, so a yes would be to add undergraduate senators back, and the intention of that would be to prevent just a senator who does not hold a chair position from possibly getting the potential to serve as vice president, chief of staff, or in another leadership appointment in a different branch. So a yay would be to approve that amendment, and a nay would be to not include that. Okay, Senator Anadurai.
Yes.
Senator Bamu.
Yes.
Senator Desai.
No.
Senator Dutta.
Yes.
Chair Everett.
Yes.
Chair Fiore.
No.
Senator Guffey.
Yes.
Senator Hatzios.
Yes.
Senator Gibbon.
Yes.
Pro Temp Logan. Maya, if you just want to, I'm assuming that's a yes. Message me if that's a no or a yes, Maya, if you don't mind. Senator Maladkar.
Yes.
Member at Large Nimala.
Yes.
Chair Pasapula.
Yes.
I vote yes. Member at Large Rampani.
Yes.
Chair or Vice Chair Richards.
Present. I'm abstaining.
Okay.
I'm voting present.
Chair Robinson.
Yes.
Senator Seabear.
Yes.
Senator Syed.
Yes.
Senator Wilkerson. Senator Wilkins.
Yes.
And let me check for, all right, Maya did vote yes, just to clarify. All right, that will be friendly, so I'm going to share my screen and change that. Wow, this is going to be fun because I don't know how to get rid of the strike through. Anyone know how to get rid of the strike through?
If it should be up at the top where bold, italics, underline is, there's a little, yeah, there you go.
Ah, wonderful. All right. Okay, are there any more points of discussion on this bill? Is there a motion on the floor? Chair Everett.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to enter voting procedure.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we're going to enter voter procedure. A yes is to approve this bill, a no is not, and please abstain if you do not want to vote. All right, Senator Anadurai.
Yes.
Senator Bamu.
Yes.
Senator Desai.
Yes.
Senator Dutta.
Yes.
Chair Everett.
Yes.
Chair Fiore.
Yes.
Senator Guffey.
Yes.
Senator Hatzios.
Yes.
Senator Gibbon.
Yes.
Maya said yes. Member at Large Maladkar.
Yes.
Member at Large Nimala.
Yes.
Chair Pasapula.
Yes.
I vote yes. Senator Rampani.
Yes.
Senator Richards.
Yes.
Chair Robinson.
Yes.
Senator Seabear.
Yes.
Senator Syed.
Yes.
And Senator Wilkins.
Yes.
All right. With 20 yeas, that passes. All right, next we are going to move on to USB 103009. Chair Everett, I will share my screen while you present.
Yeah, I will not be very long. Thank you again, Speaker Powell, for all your work on this bill. I guess the biggest things from the bill, it just makes it a bit easier on the Finance Committee and the listed committees right there in terms of funding nights. So historically, these branches would also have to come and submit proposals for funding nights. That usually takes a lot of time, but also these branches usually need funding a lot sooner than that. So this bill gives the branches the opportunity, not a requirement, they give them the opportunity to submit like an annual budget every year with a breakdown of everything they're requesting and for how much. And so if this passes, which the Finance Committee passed it last week, it would allow the Finance Committee to kind of just submit a bill with their budget and kind of approve that before the funding cycle in the fall, just so these branches can go ahead and have their funds before going into the school year when they often are already doing like events and such like that. I mean, I honestly think that's pretty much it. It's just an option to make things a little bit easier on all of us. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Are there any questions for Chair Everett? No, I will hear a motion for discussion.
I moved into discussion.
Is there a second?
Second.
We are moved in discussion. I'm going to stop sharing screen unless someone requests me to do so. Please raise your hand and I will call on you. Senator Richards.
This is a personal pet peeve of mine because I am always digging through the code as much as I am. But could we change the subheadings from lowercase a, lowercase b to the number 1 and the number 2, which is, I'll say it's standard in the code right now. That's usually the scheme used in the code. And when we have a clerk, I'm going to try and get them to make it all actually standard. But that would just make lives easier in the future if we just do that.
I'm pretty sure I'll fix the formatting on this. I think I have that power to do so. All right, is there anyone else who has points of discussion on this? I can raise my hand and say that I'm in support of this. It has gotten the stamp of approval from many different people that we've discussed this with. I'm totally behind this. I think it's going to be a pretty great change and it's going to help the Finance Committee out a lot. So that's my 2 cents. Senator Desai.
Could you share your screen with the bill, please?
Yes, let me do that real quick. All right. Is there a part that you wanted me to scroll up to or scroll down to?
Yeah, just the highlighted part I think is just most pertinent to this bill as it's highlighted.
Senator Syed.
I should have asked this earlier, but just to be clear, this is keeping the exact same procedure as earlier, but except it's just pushing the times up for the exec undergrad, like all the student government branches, right?
Chris, do you want to answer that, or I can also answer that?
You got it.
Okay. Yes, it's just giving them it's like not even mandatory. It's just the option to apply for it earlier, especially since our transition of power is in April.
Okay. Thank you.
Move to enter voting procedure.
Is there a second?
Second. Second.
All right, just to clarify, yay is to approve this bill, and nay is to do to not approve of it, and abstain is also an option. All right, Senator Anadurai.
Yes.
Senator Bamu.
Yes.
Senator Desai.
Yes.
Senator Dutta.
Yes.
Chair Everett.
Yes.
Chair Fiore.
Yes.
Senator Guppy.
Yes.
Senator Hatsios.
Yes.
Senator Gibbon.
Yes.
Pro Temp Logan. She has voted yes. Member at Large Maladkar.
Yes.
Member at Large Nimala.
Yes.
Chair Pasapula.
Yay.
I vote yes. Member at Large Rampani.
Yes.
Senator Richards.
Yes.
Chair Robinson.
Yes.
Senator Seabear.
Yes.
Senator Syed.
Yes.
Senator Wilkins.
Yes.
All right. Next, we will move on to our concurrent resolutions, beginning with USR 103010, a concurrent resolution to address the university's failure to extend tenure to Nicole Hannah Jones. I will share my screen if you would like to begin presenting, Senator Richards.
Hello again. I'm sure you're all very tired of my voice by now. I will start by saying that I wrote this bill very late at night, and I am a big dummy, and I forgot to include, one, I forgot to include Lamar's email, and two, I forgot to include Bob Blauen on the list of recipients. So if somebody could make a friendly amendment later to add those, that'd be great. Thank you. Yeah, so briefly, if you're not super familiar with the situation, Nicole Hannah Jones, who's like a New York Times Magazine writer and like, you know, woman about controversy, was recommended for tenure in the Hausman School of Media and Journalism as a professor of practice for the Knight Chair of Basic and Investigative Journalism. She went through the tenure process. She was highly recommended by the tenure process. She was recommended then by the administration, and then the Board of Trustees, which is required at UNC, and this is somewhat unusual, but not like unprecedented, is required at UNC to essentially rubber stamp every tenure, tenure application. Essentially declined to vote on offering Nicole Hannah Jones tenure. Nicole Hannah Jones is a UNC alumni. She attended the Mijo School for, I guess it's the Jomies, whatever. She attended the Mijo School for her master's degree. She's a Pulitzer Prize winner. She's a MacArthur Fellow. I mentioned she's a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, really out of my own personal edification. I just think they're neat. I think it's pretty ridiculous that she was not offered tenure. She's definitely qualified. I am not Lamar. I can say that. I'm not on the Board of Trustees. And none of us are, so we're all cool to say that. So this is essentially a letter that says, hey, Board of Trustees, you've been very bad. We think this is a bad thing. I'm sure most of you have read it. I posted it in the thing, and it's been up here for a while. If anybody has any questions about wording or how this came about, go ahead. I'm pretty much done. Try not to take up too much time.
Senator Sia, did you have a question?
No, my bad. I just didn't realize that my hand was still up from earlier.
Vice President Smith.
Yeah, I want to say there's a few intricacies that I believe are missing from this bill that explain the situation a little bit better. At the moment, I really think where the pressure sits is on Provost Bluen to resubmit the tenure application to the board. So the tenure application did not end up making it to the board as a vote. It made it to the University Affairs Committee, which is a different process, and it stopped there, but the vote was only to delay a vote. So where we're sitting right now contextually is waiting on the provost to resubmit the tenure application for Nicole Hannah Jones in a very short turnaround. So I just wanted to add that as some more context just to make sure where the pressure is being placed on individuals within this letter stands. while there is a lot of responsibility placed on the board to do something about this, or at least to be vocal about this in the first place, making sure that we're not only implicating the board, but the other individuals involved in this process, namely Bob Bluen and Kevin.
Yeah, I would be willing to entertain a friendly amendment that adjusts the last paragraph to the undergraduate senate calls on, what is this title, Provost Blauen, and to resubmit. So don't delete anything, but like calls on Provost Blauen to resubmit Miss Hannah Jones for tenure and for the Board of Trustees, blah, 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 blah.
You would like
for something along those lines, if somebody wants to make that motion.
Chair Pascagoula.
Yeah, so I already kind of thoroughly read this resolution, and I think for the most part it's very strong. My only concern with it is that we're kind of vague in what the political reasons are for the delay of tenure, and I wish that we were more specific in that this is like another just clear act of,
Chair
you know,
Pascagoula,
racial injustice.
We'll stop you real quick. We are in question and answer, but we're not in discussion yet.
Oh.
So if you have any questions for Senator Richards, this would be a time, but if you want to make a motion for discussion, that's also on the table.
Yeah, motion discussion, sorry.
I mean, I can treat that as a question if you
Yeah, I mean,
want
it
to.
is kind of a question, just like how could we better phrase that so we're more specific in the reasoning?
Yeah, I admittedly at like 3 a.m. made the decision to write the letter this way. And in like hindsight brain, I think maybe not the way to go. I think you're probably right that we should be more clear that like, you know, about the like, I don't think anybody's under any illusions about the nature of the political pressure campaign, but I think it might be good to be more clear about it. So if somebody wants to bring forward an amendment changing the language to something closer to that, I would be very happy to entertain it. I'll try not to write it during Q&A though this time.
Senator Desai.
Yeah, this is just a mix of Q&A / we'll talk about in discussion. But would you be willing to like also include some of the other statements that are like made across like campus organizations, like for example, exec branch as well, and like CIBJ, I think I got the acronym right, and like Husband faculty and such.
Yeah, if somebody has like a list somewhere, we can include that. That would probably be good to do. I most of those either like didn't exist publicly yet when I wrote this, but that would be a good thing to have. Especially, I think the Huffman School faculty like statement is very good on this issue.
Someone like to make a motion?
Motion to enter discussion.
Second.
Second.
All right, we're now in discussion. Please raise your hand if you would like to make an amendment or have any comments on this. Chair Pascagoula.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be the best person to be like writing a full amendment on this because I mean, I'm informed on what happened, but I feel like I just don't know enough about the situation. But I would make a comment and just say that if we could be more specific in the languaging, just like that there was a lot of retaliation from conservatives who objected the work with the 1619 project, and how like this act by the Board of Trustees is just another example of racial injustice in the UNC system, and how this is like not a surprise that this is a clear example of just what has been going on for the past hundreds of years, and how the Board of Trustees needs to get a grip and treat, you know, this Pulitzer Prize winning journalist with respect.
All right. Is there a specific amendment or are you just kind of like throwing that out there?
Yeah, that was more of just like a comment because I wouldn't know how to really specifically word that, but I guess an amendment would maybe just say, like, rather than saying for political reasons, like maybe amending that to as a result of like conservative conservative backlash or some sort. Like, I don't know how to specifically word that, but just something along those lines.
All right. Senator Richards, is that friendly?
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. My brain is in.
No,
I'm sorry. I was writing a different part, rewriting a different part of it. I was not really.
Wait, will you point me to where you're talking about, Chair Pascagoula?
Yeah, it says here like to reject Miss Hannah Jones's tenure application for political reasons. Yeah, that's actually a good one. Pressure from conservative voices. Something.
Okay. Sorry, what paragraph are we in? I've got like several screens pulled up.
Is the third, it's the last sentence of the third paragraph.
All right. And you wanted to say what instead?
Senator Dutta had a good example, pressure from conservative voices.
Okay, is that friendly, Senator Richards?
Yes, that is friendly.
Oh, why is this not letting me edit it? Okay. Is that the accurate change you were wanting to make? Someone give me a
Yeah, I think due to pressure would be better.
All right. Okay, Chair Everett, I think you were next.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to reiterate what Chair Pascagoula said. I don't feel qualified enough to really change this. I do think it's important that we do say something, just in the sense of, obviously she was like overly qualified, especially in her work. I mean, it's just confirmed things we've already known about the country, I guess. So I just think it's important that we do say something, especially as, student leaders. Again, I don't know all the details, but I do just want to applaud Senator Richards for the work he has done for this. I do think it's important that we do speak up on our behalf as elected officials, I guess is the word. But yeah.
All right. Did you have any like places in mind for that, or did you just kind of like general commenting it? Sorry.
I just wanted to add something there.
Awesome. I think Senator Rampani, are you next?
Yeah, and I'm sort of in the same boat of Chair Fasapula, but I think that even saying pressure from conservative voices is a little too vague. And frankly, I think as much as we may disagree with the Board of Trustees, I think that if we are too strongly taking a position that we want her to be tenured instead of just, as the Vice President was saying, we want the tenure vote to take place, right? We don't want to alienate the people that we're sending it to, despite how much we may disagree with them, right? I think, I guess if we can define our stance of whether or not we're saying the vote needs to take place or we want her to be tenured, I guess.
Would you be open to making a friendly amendment that kind of says that to change the last paragraph to
that? Sure. And awesome. As long as I want to make sure I don't like do anything Chair Pasapula just did either. I'm not trying to get just Neha.
Oh no, I agree with you. I just didn't know how to like more strongly word it.
I'm pretty sure that I'm not allowed to amend my own bill. Otherwise I would.
Do you have any help in wording though, Senator Richards? I would quite appreciate where you want to.
Oh, it's in the chat. Yeah, so just like replacing the last paragraph with what I put in the chat.
Oh, that would be fantastic. That was a great amendment, Senator Rampani. So replace this whole thing. All right. Senator Rampani, I'm so sorry. There's so many hands raised I can't keep. I think Chair Fiore is next.
Thank you. So I have two things. One really, really small, one very broad. The first is on page 3, the Dean of the Hussman School. Yep, second paragraph, page 3. Dean of Hussman School. Dean is capitalized here because we were talking about the specific dean. And I would love to make an amendment to change that if I need to, or we can just.
That is absolutely correct. I will consider that a friendly amendment.
Awesome. Second, so I agree with Senator Rampani that we should consider the people that we are sending this to. and like how to actually convince them. I think that there are two ways we could go with this bill, and I'm happy to entertain either of them. But I think we should clarify like the purpose of this like concurrent resolution, whether we should want to specifically like condemn it in the strongest terms and be like, y'all are a bunch of racists, you fucking suck, we see you being racist pieces of shit. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse. Hopefully I am. Sorry. Or if we want to be like, hey, we'd actually like you to change this. And so we need, if we actually want them to change it and we want them to reconsider this, then we do have to be, that is a significantly different tone. And I think that we should go with the Rampani version of like being like talking around like exactly what we want to say. Like obviously the intention behind this is going to be pretty clear when we're asking them to reconsider tenure and for Blauen to put her forward for tenure again. But that takes a very different tone. And I want us to be clear about which route we want to go and then very clearly go with one or the other. Because I think that if we try and combine the two into one letter, it won't be effective in either way. Thanks.
All right. I think Kartik was next, but I'm pretty sure he needs speaking privileges extended to him. Does anyone extend speaking privileges to Kartik?
I move to
So moved.
privileges.
All right. Kartik, go ahead.
Thank you, Speaker Powell, and I appreciate all for this space. For those of you who haven't met, I'm Karthik, currently serving as Secretary for the Executive Branch. I really appreciate the dialogue around intention as to this concurrent resolution. From a communication standpoint, in looking at, I guess, first pointing to the Executive Branch's statement, and then second, the statement that Student Body President Lamar Richards addressed to the Chancellor Provost and the chair of the Board of Trustees. I think what it's very important to consider, especially in the first sentence, this week we learned that UNC Chapel Hill Board of Trustees has declined to offer Nicole Hannah-Jones tenure. I would caution from a communication standpoint, the validity of specifics that occurred in this scenario and in this instance as to what the Board of Trustees' role was and what it did not do, as well as what specific individuals can do, such as the provost, like VP Smith mentioned earlier, bringing this back to the board, the calling of a special Board of Trustees meeting to then take up this vote, and in situations like that. And so just from my personal point, just wanted to ensure that this was out in the open, just the validity of certain parts, maybe being more specific. I think Senator Rampani mentioned earlier, I just wanted to draw attention to those points about whether there was or not a specific decision to decline tenure. Just wanted to share that. But I appreciate this space and this dialogue.
All right. Thank you for that, Kartik. Were you just referring to the space in the first sentence that says has declined to offer, or we have a problem with the word offer?
Oh, well, I won't speak for the Senate. I understand that's y'all's responsibility to sort of deal with this concurrent resolution. From my standpoint, I was just saying the point that the Board of Trustees did not actually vote to decline tenure. There was no vote brought to the board as a whole. And so I think getting the sort of facts, I think Student Body President Richards did a very good job compiling all of those specifics in that memo that was sent in the chat. But I just wanted to put that on everyone's radar as you all do sort of draft this concurrent resolution.
Thank you for that. Senator Richards.
Yeah, I do want to say that I did consider that when writing this, and I was careful not to say that they had voted not to offer her tenure, and instead saying that they had declined to. I don't know how much I want to play the Board of Trustees game here, where they say, "Oh, well, we never took a vote," you know, and like I don't really want to pretend that the Board of Trustees is not ultimately responsible for this. Like I think that that's a little bit disingenuous. If people really want to like buy into that, then they can, and we can change it. But I'm like not crazy sold by that. I do want to reiterate that somebody should please make a friendly amendment to add Provost Blauen and Lamar's email to the list of recipients, which I forgot to do. And I will go find those and put them in the chat. Also, Robert has written a amendment, and I consider that to be friendly, so we're good on that.
Fantastic. Robbie, if you want to change that for me or anything that you did.
I think he did already, actually.
I got you.
Awesome. Senator Dutta.
Yeah, going off of what Secretary Tiagi said, I think we should demand a reason or some sort of a statement from the Board of Trustees on their denial of tenure. And I think we should include that in the last paragraph. Is that friendly?
Yeah, if you want to write something up, that sounds good.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat.
Great. I think is.
Can I?
Or go ahead, Robbie. What's up?
Just really quickly, because I feel like there's still confusion here. I'm just referencing Lamar's letter to the Board of Trustees and the Chancellor. The Board of Trustees asked for more time to review, and in that time apparently came to some agreement between Ms. Hannah Jones and the School of Journalism. I want to make sure that's correct, because I feel like a lot of us are kind of skirting around the issue and not really getting to what actually happened just for the good of the resolution.
Thank you for that clarification. All right. Colin, if you want to go ahead and go.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something to make sure we're not having disagreements on semantics here. I don't think any one of us from exec branch, whether it's myself or Karthik or Lamar, I don't think it's lost on us the role that the Board of Trustees played here or is playing here. But I think that there's also an important distinction of where we are now and what steps need to be taken and who needs to be pressured. And at the moment, it falls holistically pretty largely on Provost Blauen and Kevin Guskowitz. While the board has requested more time to review tenure, where we are right now is waiting on that extension of another offer of tenure coming from the provost. And I want to make sure that it's not lost in a conversation of ethically whose fault is this, because inaction is just as incorrect as action from them. Their lack of doing anything in complacency is just as bad as the direct denial. But I want to make sure we're clear where we need to be going to address this issue. And I think that there's some miscommunication there. And that's what Karthik was touching on too, is where we stand now. The board has largely done nothing, which is also an issue, but there has not been the direct rubber stamp no that I think a lot of people have a perception of. It's simply there was more time requested and now we don't have that time. So it's pressuring the correct individuals because they are sitting around doing nothing, which is just as bad as doing something directly. I just wanted to make sure we were clear on that point.
Thank you for that, Colin. Senator Desai, are you next?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a friendly amendment to include Provost Bleuen's email and Lamar's email in the, oh, it's already being done, so ignore that.
You still have to do that. Still do that.
Okay, I introduced a friendly amendment to include Provost Bleuen's email and Student Body President Richard's email.
If I can ask real quick, just a logistical thing for the branch, I'm gonna type a different email for Lamar. It's the student government email that we use, so it doesn't get lost in his personal.
Fantastic.
Cool. That's fine with me.
All right. Chair Everett.
I'm drawing a blank. Oh my God. I think whatever we do, just to clarify, I do think it's important that I think one big reason is just a lot of misinformation. Again, repeating what they just said, I think we're all confused in the details because it happens so quickly. I do think whatever we do, we just, as an organization, as a body, we don't take a political stance is the most important thing. I mean, I feel like there's something in the code, but I could be wrong. I think if we just kind of request and demand information, or at least request a resubmission of her tenure application, that's good. I just want to make sure we're not taking a political stance, regardless of I mean, obviously don't want anyone to be racist. I mean, and she is a Black woman, so it makes sense as to, you get what I'm saying? Yeah, I just think we just shouldn't get political, I guess is my comment.
Senator Dutta.
Sorry, I forgot to put my hand down.
All right. I will say that she did make amendment. Senator Richards, is that a friendly amendment that she just said?
What are we changing here? What is this?
This is the last paragraph to require the Board of Trustees to explicitly make a statement.
I want to include the thing for Blauen, though. I want to include that because that's been brought up a bunch of times. So if you can rewrite it to include the like calling on Provost Blauen to resubmit Nicole Hannah Jones. Does anyone know if it's Hannah Jones or Hannah Jones? I have no idea. I don't think I've ever heard it said out loud. I guess it doesn't really matter. But further thing I wanted to. No, I'll raise my hand. Sorry.
Sheriff, you were right.
Yeah, this was just with Senator Dutta. I know it's not official yet, but I was hoping maybe we could say something besides explicitly expound, because it just kind of sounds Seussian. And like just anything that avoids that kind of alliteration, I think at the very beginning would be great, or at the very end, because those are just like really, like even just like, you know, explicitly state its reasons would be better. I know that's very silly, but like it matters to me. I'm sorry. If you're okay with that when you add the blower and stuff, that'd be awesome. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Senator Richards.
So much to my chagrin, Nicole Hannah Jones is not a PhD, so I could not use the doctor honorific. I used through the essay or the article letter, MS period, which to me seemed reasonable, but also an option is to just not include an honorific before mentions of her last name. I don't know what the done thing is in this context off the top of my head. I do know that respectfully yours is the right valediction, but I have no idea whether or not to use an honorific or not. If anybody has like a take on that, I would love to hear it. I have no idea.
Colin.
Yeah, I just have a question. I apologize if I'm monopolizing time, but just thinking about like accessibility of language in this to some individuals. I'll be honest, and I'm probably going to say this wrong. I don't know what the sort of like Damocles or Damocles is, and I don't know that many people will get that. Do we think that that's a barrier to people understanding? Like, I know it's a semantic to pick at that, but I'm curious if individuals would actually know that.
And the Sword of Damocles painting is in our art museum. That's fair though. If people feel that you don't know, they don't know, like enough people don't know what the Sword of Damocles is, it's fine. Essentially, the idea is it's like something that's hanging over your head, and it's like a Greek myth where like there's a guy is like, oh, you can be king and get all this nice stuff, but like forever there'll be a big sword with a tiny string holding it over your head.
Yeah, I think it's a really good language and a good analogy here, but I want to make sure that we're making language and things as accessible to the public as possible.
Yeah, if people feel that that's a problem, that's reasonable to me. It is just it's pretty Googleable if that's the concern, but like I'm not married to it. If somebody wants to move to change that, I'm fine. Yeah, it is true that it's the perfect metaphor here, but
All right, Sheriff Asapula.
Yeah, this is in regards to the prefix, like if we use Miss Hannah Jones. I don't personally know the precedent for just like resolutions in general, if we need to include those honorary titles, I guess, at the beginning, but just knowing like, I mean, this is obviously not a newspaper, but just knowing like AP News style and just journalistic measures, you usually don't include that prefix at the beginning of names after the first reference. So like, I don't personally think she would find offense if we just said Hannah Jones rather than Miss. But again, I don't know the formality of these resolutions as well as I should. So that, I guess, is up to the rest of y'all, whether y'all think that the Miss is necessary if you are like not 100% sure if Miss is correct. I don't know if that made any sense what I just said, but hopefully.
Senator Richards.
Yeah, I'll say that using MS is correct in like formal letter writing. Like if I was the Queen of England writing Nicole Hannah Jones letter, you would use MS period. But like, I don't know what, like I am sort of imagine there's like a standard that Senate uses, but I just don't know what it is. And maybe there's not one, but we can make one. I don't care. I just wanted to raise that to people as a thing I was kind of unsure about when I wrote this.
Member at Large Rampani.
Just to move things along real quick, I want to first move to rewrite the last paragraph to something along the lines of what Senator Dutta put in the chat. If that's friendly, of course, changing the alliteration like Chair Fiore said. And then I have something else too, but
I would like to retain unless there's a new thing, I would like to retain the language about Provost Blount, essentially, is the only quibble I have.
Okay.
So I could actually just write that right now.
What's the other thing?
This is more discussion-esque, but we need to come to some sort of terms of what the language we're going to use, because I know Senator Richards said he wanted to stick with the term offer tenure, but we don't know if that's necessarily like the most accurate with the situations. I don't know. Whatever we want to do. We need to make a decision because that's one of the only things that we haven't come to a decision about.
Senator Dutta.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm editing that last part. I'm gonna keep the stuff about Blauen, and then I'm gonna put in the chat in a minute. So.
Are there any other explicit amendments to any of the wording here? I think that we should probably address this issue right here, the offer, not offer. If not, I'm going to change this back to offer unless someone has an explicit amendment.
Whatever is friendly to Senator Richards. I mean, if we can agree on something other than offer, whether that's
I don't
what's there or
really
not.
care, but whatever you guys want is fine with me.
A member at large, Nimla.
I think considering the semantics and like just like specifics, keeping the continue the tenure process seems like appropriately vague enough to like implicate them of having a role in this tenure process, but also not saying that they denied it because the vote didn't make it to them. Obviously, you can agree or disagree with me on that though.
Could we say that they declined to vote? Did they do that? I'm not totally 100% sure on the like very strict.
I don't think they declined to vote. I think it was more of a situation of they said they just ran out of time with really.
Oh, okay. They just ran out the clock.
And if anybody's here from an executive branch that has, or Lamar is here, I don't know if he's still here, can clarify. She agreed to this 5-year contract, so I don't know if she was under the assumption that her vote was going to be denied anyway, because it seems like that happened either like outside of the Board of Trustees meeting as like a settlement, or I'm not sure.
Someone want to extend speaking privileges to Karthik?
So moved.
Second. Karthik, go ahead.
Yep. So with that, that's a good point you mentioned. And so the contract that Ms. Hannah Jones was offered was premature to any vote on her tenure. And so the point there, the argument is that any contract offered with the belief that the board wouldn't offer tenure to Ms. Hannah Jones is under false precept. And so in terms of looking at actual events that did happen in this case, I'll just go through point by point if it does offer some clarification. So of course the faculty, as is the tenure process at a whole lot of institutions across the country, it's really centralized through the faculty. And so the faculty deemed that Ms. Hannah Jones was worthy. They submitted the individual, right, to Dean King of Hussman. And then that recommendation was made to Provost Bluen, who then has the power to proceed to recommend that candidacy to the BOT. And so Provost Bluen did, that was an instance that did occur. And so the board then, after receiving that recommendation initially a couple months back, asked for time to review whatever details there were in that point, whether it was the University Affairs Committee, maybe not putting it on agenda, whatever that was. An agreement was made separately. between Ms. Hannah Jones and Hussman prior to anything happening with the BOT. So I hope that offered some clarification there.
Can I ask a question really fast? Is it like, would you say it is accurate to say that they declined to vote?
So see, that's a good question. For me, just from my perspective, I don't think that particularly, like, see, I see in the chat, declined to hear the tenure case. I think that's more of a Senate verbiage thing. For me personally, I would have said that I don't think the BOT has, because I'm thinking now, Provost Bluen, at this point in time, I think it goes back to the question of whether you're trying to include what history happened in this concurrent resolution or to address what should happen moving forward. And if it's moving forward, if it's the latter, then I would assume to be more directed toward the provost to then re-up this recommendation to the board and calling for that official vote by the chair of the Board of Trustees, putting it on an official agenda. But if you're talking about the history of what did happen in the past few months, then it is more of a, well, there was the University Affairs Committee of the BOT that needed more time and then did not, the chair that did not put it on an agenda at that time in which Hussman reached an agreement. Did that help? Great.
Member at large, Nimala.
I think in terms of just like where we're putting what, I think the first paragraph it's appropriate to like put just the history of what actually happened, and in the end mention what we want to happen and mention the Provost Bluen in the last paragraph rather than the first.
Kartik, do you need speaking privileges again? Or is your hand just up?
Oh, let me take down my hand.
You're good.
So is this first edit friendly? Is this the vibe? I hate to use that word, but
Senator
So
Richard.
this edit is, we learned that the UNC Chapel Hill Board of Trustees has declined to offer a full and fair process for the potential tenure of Nicole Hannah Jones.
right, and I need to change this, but
I would prefer offer a full and fair process for, or yeah, it's fine. Seems good.
Right, are there any other amendments anyone wants to make? Did we, Senator Dutta, did you ever send, she did send a corrected version of the last paragraph. I'm gonna assume she made an amendment for that. Senator Richards, is that friendly? I can copy it again and send it.
I think we're gonna change that part that says reasons to deny tenure to decline to hear the tenure case of Nicole Hannah Jones. I think it's the next message sent by Chair Everett.
All right. If there's nothing else, I move to enter voting procedure. Yeah, let's make sure we get to a final point.
Yeah, I think we have to resolve this amendment first. What is the actual?
Yeah, what is the wording of this? Can someone type the exact wording out for me?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay, because I'm confused with what y'all are talking about, because there was a friendly amendment to change the word offer to what we had talked about. So are we changing it again?
No, I think this is for the last.
No, yours is good. This is
okay,
the last
paragraph. Okay. Sorry, y'all. It's late. It's summer.
I think we are waiting for Senator Dutta's final version of the last part. Thanks for everyone's patience. Senator Dutta is a saint for getting all this done. All right. Senator Richards, will you please review that and say if it's friendly?
Just a clarity thing. Are we asking for the Board of Trustees to state the reasons to decline to hear the tenure case, or for Provost Blauen? My thinking was it was the Board of Trustees, but I don't know.
Yes, it is the Board of Trustees. I must have confused the antecedent. Let me fix it.
You could, oh, can I, sorry.
Go ahead, Chair Fiore, what's up?
Thanks, didn't raise my hand. I was just saying you could keep it the exact same and then just add after the publicly and then just say, just put the Board of Trustees there.
Wait, put it where?
Okay, so then you could say, you could keep everything the same, resubmit Nicole Hannah-Jones to the Board of Trustees for tenure, and for the Board of Trustees to make a decision to this, and for tenure, for them to publicly and explicitly state reasons to decline to hear the tenure case.
Is this right?
Could we make it just one and, just so it's not and?
Rid of this?
No. Earlier.
Oh,
That one, yeah, because it's a list.
got it.
And can we remove the Board of Trustees again in the last clause?
Right here? Yes.
Yes.
Just like
Yeah,
and
that's fine. We do still need like a subject for that clause, though.
We want to go back to the Board of Trustees?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
This seems fine to me.
Okay. I'm sorry, I think Senator Desai has something first.
Senator Desai.
Yeah, I propose a friendly amendment to change Sword of Damocles to risk, just striking Sword of Damocles and changing the word to risk. This constant risk above Ms. Hannah-Jones's head.
I mean, I do really like Sword of Damocles. It is exactly what the deal is.
Senator Richards, I totally understand your.
No, but like risk is definitely the wrong word.
Okay.
How about like
pressure?
Threat, maybe?
Threat is better. I totally understand your necessity for poetic metaphors, Senator Richards.
I will say that like the very famous neoclassical Sword of Damocles painting is in the Ackland. So it's
no,
like
totally
UNC
understand, but
and you guys should all go look at it. It's very cool.
I've personally seen.
How are you feeling about it? To the threat, Senator Richards, do you like it or no?
Does everybody want to discuss this? Is that what's going on here?
I think we'll let you say friendly amendment.
If people want to discuss it, I don't want to call it friendly. If people have like counterpoints, let's call it friendly now, and then we can discuss it. How about that?
Okay, Senator Desai, is your hand still up? Like, were you still going, or?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, Senator Richards, I absolutely understand your necessity for poetic flair. Something I greatly appreciate about you, and what makes you such a great writer. But I do agree in the accessibility of the language. Unfortunately, nobody who reads this will know neoclassical history, and just making it short and to the point is important. And I do understand that there needs to be some discussion over this, but I do agree with some of the concerns echoed by VP Smith previously, and that we've just got to make sure that everybody who reads this doesn't necessarily know anything that we've specifically mentioned in it. And I think we do a good job of explaining that at the beginning, but making sure that even our metaphors are representative of something that is short and to the point and available for everybody to understand.
All right, member at large, Namila.
Yeah, so for this, I mean, I agree with like the accessibility to language, but I mean, I also like the sort of Damocles reference because it makes the threat more imminent. So I propose to say just like a hanging sword. Is that amenable to people? Because I think people understand what a hanging sword above your head is. It's not, it's like still the reference to the sword, but in a more accessible fashion, I guess.
Y'all are straight cracking me up right now. This is.
I would really prefer to have the reference or not. Like, I don't know, you guys.
Look, the friendly. Can we hit it with a yes or no? Is this friendly?
No.
Okay. All right. Chair Fiore.
Yeah, this is a friendly amendment to change it back to sort of Damocles for the following reasons. The first is that if it's just a sword, that's dumb. It's not actually a sword. That's like that's not a helpful metaphor. Second, if you don't understand every single cultural reference you come across, that's okay. That doesn't mean you're stupid. It just means that you haven't experienced literally everything that the world has to offer. And that doesn't mean that the entire piece is inaccessible. It just means like I'm really actually surprised that this is the definition of accessibility that we've boiled down to, because that's not really what accessibility is. If you understand the entirety of a piece, except for one phrase, 3 words, then you still understand the piece. It is still fundamentally accessible. So I think that like all of the objections to this on the basis of accessibility are kind of BS, frankly. And I think that like this is an issue of like wounded ego because some of us didn't understand the reference initially. It's fine. It doesn't mean you're stupid. I don't understand a lot of references. This works. It makes sense. If we are going to change this, then I would like us entirely and talk about it as a freedom of speech issue, because that is ultimately what it comes down to. It is not a threat above her head. It's not a sword hanging above her head. It is specifically the sword of Damocles. I think it's kind of silly that we're having this discussion over something so minute that's not like a grammatical error. In the future, if people would like to like write their own like resolutions and write them in their own style, they can. We've seen a lot of different styles in the resolutions that have been written in the past. And like, this is not really the point of friendly amendments. I would like to change it back. It's really okay. It's still accessible. I would also.
Are we gonna say yes or no?
You guys are killing me. I just for clarity, this is not how friendly amendments work.
Could I finish?
Really can't do this.
I appreciate your comments, speaker, but this is not like the time. I wasn't finished speaking yet.
Oh, I thought you were done. My bad.
Yeah, I was in the middle of a sentence actually. Maybe my Wi-Fi cut off or something.
No, yeah.
I just want to say this is not the definition of accessibility nor friendly amendments. That's it. Please continue. Do you accept the friendly amendment? Change back to sort of damage.
Okay. So this is not really how friendly amendments work. This is, you can propose an amendment and I can find it friendly. But otherwise, we do have to like actually pass out of the amendment process somehow, usually by like withdrawing the amendment or voting on the amendment.
Okay, I really hate to step in. I'm really low on time. So speaker, is it okay if I say something real quick before I have to eat out of here? I don't know if I was next or not. If that's okay with people.
Sorry, I think we're gonna actually have to handle this because there's an amendment on the floor.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. Like I think that we should just vote on this, and we should have like a short discussion period on the amendment. And we should vote on the amendment, and then we should just please, for the love of God, put this behind us. This is very stupid. I really don't care. But like we should just like try and get through this and move on with our lives.
All right. So I'm a little unsure of what to do here. So, Senator Richards,
we can enter like a discussion period on the amendment.
Okay,
if you want.
let's go ahead and do that. Well, do I have to get a motion for that? Sorry.
So moved.
All right. Okay. Is there now all hands will be about this discussion, so please remove your hand. Member at large, Rampani, go ahead.
2 things, y'all. We are debating something that has like hardly any value to this whatsoever, right? And I do want to say, Chair Fiore, you know I respect you, you know, I think you're great. That it came off very, very like, I don't know, it was a little much. It was a little much, right? So I would just say, just keep it simple. Just remove the metaphor altogether. Just say like, it keeps constant pressure on the university. It sets a bad precedent. Do something. That's it.
Okay, Colin.
Yeah, I need to address a few things. First of all, I think this being a conversation of bruised ego is jumping to a conclusion that's not where this is. What I want to be very clear of is what we center as language that individuals understand is a reference to Eurocentric reference based largely in whiteness. If this were a reference coming from cultures that were not largely Eurocentric and white, would we still be referring to it as common? That's really important for me to address, and that's what I'm getting at here is language is not just semantics. Language has meanings regardless of the intention behind it. And assuming that this is something someone would know, and that assuming when someone doesn't know this reference, it's a bruised ego because they feel stupid, I think is something that needs to be examined. I think there's a lot of implicit bias in trying to center this as accessible to everybody. If this would have been any other reference from any other culture that were not largely Eurocentric classical work, would we be considering this commonplace to understand? There is something that I think that really needs to be addressed in this space. And to let that go unaddressed, I think is doing a lot of disservice to a lot of individuals.
All right, Senator Richards.
Just to briefly defend my writing really fast, the Sword of Damocles is a good like reference point for this. I think it's like fine. I think it's very clear from context clues what it means, and people can Google it. But like, also, it's not important, and like I'm not married to it. I don't want anybody to think that I'm going to be mad at them if they vote to remove it from the bill. I won't, or the resolution. I won't care. But like, I think that as far as accessibility goes, like it's pretty reasonable for us to expect anyone reading a undergraduate Senate resolution to have like a college reading level, and to be able to like, understand like how to read, like in like using context clues. And I think it's fine. But like also like if people feel that it's like really pretty arcane, which like I use some pretty arcane language, and I just do it kind of like on my own, and I don't think about it. And if people feel that it's like that, then that's fine. And I don't have a strong feeling.
All right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Senator Gibbon is next.
Yeah, to me, it wasn't really a matter of like accessibility as the issue, but rather like people who like don't understand it aren't gonna really take the like a lot of people won't take the time to like look it up and understand it. So it being included is just gonna get lost on people. So it just is kind of like redundant, I feel. So yeah, that was like my only point on that. I don't really think it's that big of a deal, but yeah, that was my point.
All right. Senator Desai.
Yeah, I just want to say, Senator Richards, Chair Fiore, absolutely understand everything that you guys are saying. I respect you guys both so much intensely. And I just want to echo some of my other colleagues' comments, in that it is about accessibility, but as Senator Gibbon mentioned, it's also about just making sure people get the general idea of it and people really won't take the time to look up what it means. And so just as simple and to the point as we can get. And yes, I do understand that it's not as big of a deal as we are making it out to be, but I do understand the concerns about it. So yeah, I really wanted to just mention that like we're just making parts of it general because we are representing a general public. We don't necessarily know who would look at this, who knows the Sword of Damocles or who doesn't. There may be somebody who's incredibly educated and just doesn't know what it means. But yeah, that's just my comments on it.
Chair Pasapula.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Colin said. That was, very strong, and I 100% agree with everything you said. And I wanted to kind of echo my comment that we're just, in general, we're focusing way too much on semantics here. The whole point of this resolution is to support Nicole Hannah-Jones and the actions that, or not support the actions, but to call on the Board of Trustees to answer us. And so I just think that, if it's something as simple as a metaphor that a lot of us don't understand, it shouldn't be this big of a deal to just remove it, make it something more accessible, or make it something that more people understand, and just move on. Like, I don't even know how much time we spent on this, but it clearly has been, in my opinion, just a waste of time that we could have spent discussing the message more, or voting on this bill and talking about the STEM accessibility bill that's next. I don't know. I just feel like this has been a lot of back and forth that was unnecessary. And I think in the future, we need to really focus on what is our message here, who are we serving, and that's all I had to say on that.
Senator Richards.
Would like to move to enter voting procedure so we can be done with this.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, a yes is to change to sort of Damocles.
Yeah, yes would be to change back to sort of Damocles,
Yeah.
and no is to remain with threat.
Okay, all right, we're gonna start with Senator Anadurai.
No.
Senator Bamu.
No.
Senator Desai.
No.
Senator Dutta.
No.
Chair Everett. Chair Fiore.
Yes, with apologies for getting so heated.
Senator Guffey.
No.
Senator Hatzios.
No.
Senator Gibbon.
No.
Pro Temp Logan abstained in chat. Member at Large Malodkar.
Yes.
Member at Large Nimala.
Abstain.
Chair Pasapula.
No.
I vote no. Senator Member at Large Rampani. Senator Richards.
Abstain.
Chair Robinson.
Yes.
Senator Seabear.
No.
Senator Syed.
No.
Senator Wilkins.
Yes.
All right, it will stay at threat. Okay, is there any more points of discussion?
I would like to move to enter voting procedure.
All right.
Second.
We have a second. We're now going to enter voting procedure. Give me a second to get my. All right. A yes is to approve this concurrent resolution, and no is to not. Senator Anadurai.
Sorry, could you repeat that? You cut out a bit.
Sorry. A yes is to approve this concurrent resolution, to send it out, and a no is to not.
Yes.
All right. Senator Bamu.
Yes.
Senator Desai.
Yes.
Senator Dutta.
Yes.
Chair Everett.
Yes.
Chair Fiore.
Yes.
Senator Guffey.
Yes.
Senator Hatzios.
Yes.
Senator Gibbon.
Yes.
Pro Temp Logan. She has voted yes in the chat. Member at Large Malodkar.
Yes.
Member at Large Nimala.
Yes.
Chair Pasapula.
Yes.
I vote yes. Senator Rampani. Senator Richards.
Yes.
Chair Robinson.
Yes.
Senator Seabear.
Yes.
Senator Syed.
Yes.
Senator Wilkins.
Yes.
All right. This will pass. We are going to move on to USR 103012, a concurrent resolution about improving accessibility to STEM for underrepresented and minority students. I will share my screen. Member at Large Nimala, if you would like to begin presenting.
Yeah, sure. So I was speaking with Pro Temp Logan the other day, and what's come up very often is improving accessibility to STEM majors for students. And in all my conversations with the Director of Equity at the BME department and in various other places, what's always come up is like how students initially declare their interest in STEM majors. And UNC even consistently ranks as one of the top STEM universities, and at least half of its like top 10 majors are STEM majors. But by the end of the first year, many of these people like give up their majors or like change their majors for something non-STEM related. And I tried to like look at the data and see what was correlating with it. But what's happened is like since 2017, the first year science GPA has been decreasing for students. And like there's a metric called persistence rate, which is the graduation rate plus how many students have been retained from year to year, and that has also been decreasing. So looking at all these factors as a whole, I think what we really need is a committee to address the challenges for STEM students and promote like bilateral communication, because at the end of the day, faculty and students want the same thing, that is students to learn and benefit and like learn well, not have insane challenges in their learning. And I think having a designated committee that will first promote that kind of bilateral communication is going to be helpful in not only like improving the collaboration between the two, but also really having impactful change in what we achieve. And if you guys have any questions, I'm open to them.
Are there any questions for Member at Large, Nimala? If not, I have a couple of questions, so I'm gonna pop in. I was wondering who is the chair, or what is the formal process for chairing this committee?
So I was thinking that at least initially for the month or two, when we are deciding what the goals of the committee are going to be and how we're going to proceed, the chair is going to be me. But after that, we will elect a chair properly within the committee. And the chair would be likely elected by the students. If the faculty want to participate, they would be allowed to. That's the whole point of this. It's like a democratic committee between students and faculty. But faculty will be chosen by nomination basis, and we're going to essentially send this resolution to a lot of director of undergraduate studies for the STEM departments, and we're hoping they're going to send nominations for committee, like faculty members to this committee.
And a follow-up question to that. So will this remain a Senate committee, like a senatorial committee forever? Is it so like, I guess I was wondering kind of like the chair position, like if it has the potential to be someone who's not a senator, like will Senate always overlook this committee or not overlook, but maintain this committee?
I think I got what you're saying. So this is a lot inspired by the Commission on Student Equity and Campus Equality, in that it uses the same kind of language, but I wanted this to be different because that committee specifically focuses on student needs. Here we're trying to advocate for the faculty needs as well, and basically foster communication between the two. This is not going to remain a senatorial committee. I think I would ideally like for it to be a club or registered student organization, sort of adjacent to how the Student Equity Commission works. And the chair does not always have to be a senatorial member. It could be anyone from a STEM major. And we've just defined what a STEM major is down below, if you could scroll down to like section 4.
Yeah, and then my last question, I was looking at this list of like BS degrees. So like economics technically offers like a BS. So like would that have to be in here? Or is it any major who offers a BS that is included here?
I have not included economics, but I mean, the problem with that is what is STEM does get a little tricky. So I tried to simplify it by defining what qualifies, but I guess that's a little like arbitrary if I decide that. So the way I envision it is this list can be amended by a 2/3 majority in the Senate. If you would like to propose economics to be on this list, please go ahead, and I'm okay with that. There is definitely a way to add majors to this list.
Okay, I'm done now. Sorry.
Can I add something to that response?
I think. Oh, I guess since you're
yeah, she's co-sponsoring, so I would really like for her to respond as well.
Yeah. So another thing that we were thinking of focusing on is once this committee is established, we were going to probably conduct some kind of a field research to understand like the proportions of the undergraduate population that belong to each STEM major, and kind of have like a representative population on, or like a representative position on the committee. So like this committee is going to be small. So not all majors will be reflected here. It really depends on like the popularity of the major and the concerns and the needs of the students. And so this is like it's a flexible list. It's going to keep changing.
And if you have specific questions about the field research and what kind, I would like refer you to, I think, section 1, where we define what we're trying to do.
Chair Pasapula, do you have any questions?
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
I had a question about like the specifics of eligibility. So I know you specified it to those degrees that offer a BS, but if somebody were to have like a BA version of that, like say I was a BA psychology major and then like a political science major, would that person still be eligible to join this committee, because it's technically, they're not holding the BS version of that degree, but it's still STEM?
I'm going to say no, just in terms of classification purposes, because like I understand the fact that they have the BA version, but then this really like broadens out to should like, you know, economics be included in this. They have a BS, but like, I mean, what qualifies as, like, I get what you're saying, but I'm gonna say no just for like the purposes of distinguishing STEM from not STEM.
Yeah, because I guess my only concern is that like I know people that are like a BA of math or something like that, and that's still STEM, but I guess that's something that you all could take up later on after this is more.
Exactly. I think what we really envisioned, like Senator Datta and I, was doing the kind of field research that we detail in section 2. I have to amend myself, but like really focusing on what the needs of the student, where we should be focusing our energies based on like representative like weights, I guess. If like for example, biomedical engineering has 80 students in each like cohort, like the class of 2023 from UNC is only going to have 80 students. They're not going to have the same kind of representation that something like psychology or neuroscience is going to have, because those are definitely like more populated. And then the BABS is like a very sticky kind of issue. So I would say just BS for now.
I also want to add to that and say that technically, since BA and BS degrees overlap to some extent, any changes made to the BS degree would automatically or most likely have an effect on the BA degrees as well. So in some form, there is representation of the BA degrees on the committee.
Right, Senator Richards.
I had a similar question, actually. Like a third of the computer science department is BAs. And like, there's really no, like the only strong distinction the department makes between them is how many like lab science classes you take, and like if you have to take Calc 3. And like, it seems pretty wild to me to like exclude a third of the computer science department from the committee, just like because they're not a BS. Like, I don't know, like I feel like if you're getting a computer science major, you should be a STEM person. And like what I'm not sure I fully understand the justification.
Sure. I think what Senator Datta actually brought up just now was very helpful in like that distinction. If you are a computer science major, BS, you're going to be taking the largest representative set of classes in STEM fields, you know, because you have to take those lab science and like Calc 3 or whatever. But a BA student does not have to take that, but they will still benefit from the points that the BS student brings up. This is not designed to be like a representative committee, as in like everybody gets a say into their grievances, but this is more like addressing what are the challenges for classes specifically, and how can we best fix that. And that's why it's like limited to BS. Yeah.
I also want to say that like, I think I get what you're saying. Like, I completely understand that. And I think what you're trying to say is that it's not necessarily like, you know, the degree that qualifies the candidate, or rather that the candidate is, you know, belongs to that department and, you know, is a better advocate of the students. And so I agree with you actually. And Member at large, Namala, if you're friendly to this, I'm open to adding the BA degrees as well.
So BA degrees, like just for computer science or any of these majors that offer BA versions?
All of these majors.
Okay, I'm friendly to that.
Yeah, we
BA
can.
and BS for these.
Let's just get all our questions out, but we will fix that in discussion when we get there.
Cool.
Chair Fiore.
Yeah, thank you. So I know that this has been like a long time coming, and there's been a lot of work on this from a lot of like different places. And I wanted to know, like specifically, like the research that's going to be done will be shaping a lot of this. So like all of the like basically you're just asking people like what they want, and then they tell you what would help them like with their retention rates and everything. I was wondering if there were like categories for that, or if it was just kind of a broad, like if you had like ideas for what those would look like, if it would be specifically like how can you help mental health, like how can you, because like there's some here, but like
Yeah, sorry,
yeah,
I
go
don't
ahead.
have. Are you okay? So basically, what this research is going to study is that like persistence rate sort of metric, which is how many students come in saying, "Hey, I want to be STEM," and how many stick to it. So the goal is retention, as you like said. So I think initially what the research is going to be is graduation outcomes out to STEM and retention by demographic for students, which is income level and the county they're coming from, like high school. There's actually a classification system for North Carolina counties, as in 50% to 100% rural versus completely rural versus urban. And based on like the data, which is available in like one of the appendix sections, like there's a link, you can look at the data yourself if you'd like to. There's like traditionally the math and science GPAs for students from like completely rural or rural counties is worse than students coming out of like really urban, high median income sort of households. So that's the main focus of the research, is where are the gaps. A lot of the students from the like sort of rural counties don't have as many AP credits, which means they're having to take like 3-4 STEM classes all in one semester to fulfill requirements for like being an applying to major. And I know computer science was also debating about entering that kind of system. So that's going to put a lot of undue pressure on students who are coming from those kind of backgrounds. And this committee is going to be a place for us to advocate for them and say like, hey, like, I hope you realize this is the kind of like workload you're expecting the student to carry off versus that student. The requirements are like ultimately there to help the students, but it definitely like creates a barrier to entry to STEM and to like retention in STEM. So that's the main focus.
Thank you guys for that. Is there a motion to enter discussion?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Okay, we're now in discussion. If you have a point, please raise your hand. And I'm going to stop sharing because it's kind of hard for me to see hands. Okay. Chair Robinson.
Senator, I just want to say thank you for bringing this to my attention. I didn't really know any of this, but I think this is a very important point, and I look forward to hearing the rest of this discussion and supporting this legislation, because I think it is very, very important.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Senator Richards.
Yeah, this is extremely very important and very good. I think that a lot of the existing problems in STEM departments in general, and especially in the computer science department in particular, is that there's not like, if faculty has not like worked to reach out to groups of students to like discuss issues like this, and there's no group for them to talk to. So like, I mean, I received a memo from the computer science department that was like, oh, well, we were going to set up a student advisory council, but instead we decided to not do that and do whatever we wanted. But we did talk to all these other student organizations, and it was like a big list of student organizations that had basically asked them for the money they were distributing. And like having a committee that is focused specifically on like making STEM departments at UNC less extremely cursed is really important and very good. And I spoke briefly to Member at Large Namala about this on the phone last week. and I was really impressed. I think this is a really good idea. I think you should all vote in favor of it. Thank you.
Senator Gibbon.
Yeah, I think this is a great idea. I will say, however, I think it might need to be like an amendment or something, but I noticed that like environmental science, the director of undergraduate studies included, which that is an included STEM major. So I just want to make sure that major is being represented as well. So I can like find that if I need to.
Yeah, absolutely. I might have missed some contacts. And actually, I noticed an amendment above. I don't know that I'm allowed to say it, but in like the first like whereas clause, there's a UNC missing in the very first one, which is kind of a big deal. And if somebody would like to propose that, that would be great. Thank you.
Senator Bamu.
Yes, I just want to say, as a biology major, I think this is a great idea. I know how hard STEM majors can be. So I think it's a great way to just initiate, like foster communication between the faculty and staff and see where we can go with that. So thank you for doing this, Senator Nimble.
I'm going to jump in here again because I can't raise my hand. Sorry, guys. I was wondering if I could ask if this would be, we can talk about it first, just changing, maybe saying majors offer or majors qualifying as STEM shall be, and then like, why did I just forget the word for the 2 dots? Y'all help me out here.
Colon?
That's it. There we go, a colon. And then listing like biology and including the BAs and BSs. And then you don't really have to make the distinction for the BS degrees. I really think that excluding like a biology BA is kind of an odd sentiment for this. I really love the work you guys did, and I understand why you were looking for that, but we can like chat about that before I suggest it. Like member at large, Nimala or Senator Dutta, how would you guys feel about making that change?
Sure, I'm okay with that. Just the thing was like, then do we include majors like nursing and public health? I don't like it was just like really hard for us to define what exactly was STEM. And one way we thought of doing it was saying, oh, what are the degrees offered as BS? And I think economics was one that I just like simply missed. It wasn't one that I like actively tried to avoid. But then like, should we include that? So that was why I did not include like a BA version of the degree. But if you guys are okay with this list of majors, I'm completely okay with including both the BA and BS versions of them.
I would just offer maybe like, since we're having to like, potentially cut economics out as a BS, and like you said, like this is a growing list. I think it may be good just to start out and be like, this is what we've identified as STEM at this time, and maybe the commission can work on it more later if that's like what your idea was for it. So I will propose that. Is that friendly to you guys, or would you like to enter debate on that?
No, I'm okay with that. What about you, Senator Datta?
Yeah, I'm okay with that too. I think like our thought process in the beginning was just to kind of narrow down, for example, a chemistry major might struggle a lot more than, say a psychology major just because of the level of the classes and the discourse. And so therefore like a chemistry major would probably have like more representation on the committee compared to a psychology major. This is purely example purposes. I'm not trying to minimize the difficulty of any majors, but so that was the process behind it to like help with that, to help with boiling that list down. It was important to kind of make that distinction between BS and BA just due to the number of classes they had to take. But I completely agree. And I'm open to like having this change in the future if need be.
Fantastic. Okay, I think
Can we just like star it, like asterisk it, and say this can be like amended and is being amended, whatever. This is a list in progress, something along those lines.
You could say include, but are not necessarily limited to.
I like that.
Is that fair? All right. Also, I'm going to quickly address what Senator Gibbon put in the chat. Is that friendly? We want to go ahead and add that person.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to quickly do that real quick. Senator Desai, you can go ahead.
Motion to enter voting procedure.
Oh, okay. Hold on one second. Would that be the correct title? Someone who knows this department.
She's the director. Her title is Director of Undergraduate Studies, or like the relevant title.
Okay.
Um.
And then it would be like, comma, Environment and Ecology and Energy Department. Or not department, sorry, program.
Is program capitalized? I know that's a weird thing to ask, but
I think you can leave out the program actually.
okay.
And could you also actually unbold Kenita Johnson in the previous line? I think I missed that.
Got you.
Thank you.
I believe that program does have to be included just because it is included in like her title.
Okay, that's fine.
That department. I don't, yeah.
That's totally okay.
All right, is that good, y'all?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Senator Desai, you had a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we are now going to enter voting procedure. A yes is to pass this, a no is to not pass it. Senator Anadure,
Yes.
Senator Bamu,
Yes.
Mayor Desai,
Yes.
Senator Dutta,
Yes.
Chair Everett,
Yes.
Chair Fiore,
Yes.
Senator Guffey,
Yes.
Senator Hatzios, Senator Gibbon,
Yes.
Maya voted yes. Member at Large Mlodkar,
Yes.
Member at Large Nimala,
Yes.
Senator or Chair Pascula,
Yes.
yes. Senator Richards,
Yes.
Chair Robinson,
Yes.
Senator Seabear,
Yes.
Senator Syed,
Yes.
and Senator Wilkins.
Yes.
All right, this passes. I have no notices and adjournments other than our next meeting will be at the end of June. You will hear from me more about that. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns. We are going to enter into a roll call vote for adjournment. Senator yes is to adjourn, and no is to not adjourn. Senator Anadure.
Yes.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We had to make a motion for adjournment. Can someone motion for it?
Motion to adjourn.
Wow, I think I heard a second.
Second.
All right, Senator Bamu,
Yes.
Senator Desai,
Yes.
Senator Dutta,
Yes.
Chair Everett,
Yes.
Chair Fiore,
Yes.
Senator Guffey,
Yes.
Senator Hatzios. All right, Senator Gibbon.
Yes.
Maya said yes. Member at Large Mlodkar,
Yes.
Member at Large Nimala,
Yes.
Chair Pascula.
Yes.
I vote yes. Senator Richards,
Yes.
Chair Robinson,
Yes.
Senator Seabear,
Yes.
Senator Syed,
Yes.
Senator Wilkins.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your night.
Hi, you are muted.
What was that?